Hi, I am Ekansh Goyal. I'll be presenting a typological and universal overview of Portuguese, a Romance language both conservative in structure and global in reach. Often referred to as Latin with little corruption, Portuguese retains remarkable fidelity to its Latin roots, enriched by diverse influences. It belongs to the Romance family, closely related to Spanish and Galician, with shared traits like SEO word order and prepositional genitives. Compared to French or Italian, Portuguese stands out for its preservation of Latin syntax and morphology. Today, it's spoken by over 260 million people, making it the sixth most spoken language globally, thanks largely to Portuguese colonial expansions across Brazil, Africa, and Asia. Portuguese origins trace to the 3rd century BCE when Vulgar Latin reached Iberia, blending with Celtic and Lusitanian substrates. Germanic and Arabic influences followed, notably during the 711 CE Moorish conquest. By the 12th century, Galician Portuguese appeared in written records, and Portugal's 1139 independence spurred its literary evolution. The 15th to 17th century age of exploration globalized Portuguese, establishing it as a trade lingua franca and spawning creoles. Today, Brazil is home to over 215 million speakers, followed by Portugal and largely Lusophone populations in Angola, Mozambique, and the diaspora from France and the US to Goa and Macau. Portuguese exhibits rich dialectal diversity. European Portuguese features vowel reduction as in autocorruge, while Brazilian Portuguese employs open vowels, preferring onibus. African and Asian varieties such as those in Angola and East Timor integrate indigenous lexicons with creoles like papiamento, adding complexity. Media and education ensure mutual intelligibility, reflecting Portuguese typological adaptability. Let us now examine Portuguese phonology. The consonant inventory varies regionally. BB softens intervocalic stops and example pronouncing carta as carta, while EP retains carter. BB palatalizes t and d before e, yielding g and g, and employs glide insertion, example muito. Rhotics range from tapped R to fricative R, with regional variations aligning with Romance phonotactics. Portuguese vowel system include oral and nasal vowels, marked by a tilde as in pau. EP reduces unstressed vowels to a and o as in falamush, while BP favors open vowels as in falamush. Diphthongs pi are rare, and triphthongs enrich BP phonetic diversity, reflecting regional phonological divergence. Stress typically targets the penultimate syllable in the word ending in a, etc., as in meza. Words ending e, r, z, etc. stress the final syllable as in cafe. Accent mark exceptions, acute for open vowels, example rapido, and circumflex for coast, example vusa. Intonation varies by dialect. EP employs a sing-song rhythm, while BP is syllable time with smoother flow. Regional nuances such as Northeast Brazil's expressive pitch or Sao Paulo's flatter intonation reflect cultural influences contributing to Portuguese prosodic diversity. The typical syllable structure in Portuguese follows CC, V, and CC pattern, while EP preserves complex onsets as seen in Psicologo. BP simplifies them, often dropping the initial consonant. The nucleus can include monophthong, diphthongs, or triphthong, and nasal elements are common. Codas, when present, may include stops, nasal, or sibilants, but again, BP often simplifies them to ease articulation. Portuguese phonology involves several regular transformations that shape the evolution of words. These include assimilation, like bong dia, and deletion, such as syncope and fabrica, metathesis, as in Latin humerus becoming ombro, and palatalization from chilum to q. Other changes include nasalization, lanation, diphthongs, often resulting in smoother, more natural speech. Next, moving on to morphology. Derivation involves prefixation, example feliz to infeliz, and suffixation, example rapido to rapidamente. Compounding forms, example gorda cua, while reduplication, example devakino, adds explicitity. Conversion transforms camino to caminar, showcasing morphological productivity. Nouns mark gender: O for masculine, example gato, and A for feminine, example gata. Diminutives, example kasena, and augmentatives, example kasarao, convey size or affection, with determiners agreeing in gender and number per universal 3. Pronouns include subject, example tu, você, object me, and possessive forms meu and minha. Agreement is critical, as in example ela forte versus elle sa fortis, reflecting universal agreement patterns. Adjectives agree in gender and number, example menino alto versus menina alto, and typically follows noun, example caro value unless emphatic, example grande omen. Comparisons use analytical, example mais alto, or synthetic forms, example altissimo. Verb classified as are, as in falar, as in comer, as in partir, inflect for tense, aspect, person, and number across indicative, example falu, subjunctive, example ko fali, and imperative fali, moods. Compound tenses include, example tenu faldu. Adverbs often formed with menti are invariable and flexible in position, example ele falau carmenti. They denote manner, time, degree, enhancing sentential nuance. Irregularities include verb se, saw, stem changing verbs dormi to durmu, noun with irregular plurals, example pau to pies. Adjective show supplementive forms, example bound to melor, and pronoun shift, example eu to mean, adding morphological complexity. Now we move to syntax. Portuguese follows the default SVO word order, example cho, compro, caro. However, due to rich inflection, it allows flexibility. Subjects may be dropped, example compro, caro, and objects can be fronted for emphasis, example o livro, Maria, compro. Marked word orders like VSO or VOS occasionally appear in poetry or formal registers, adding rhythm or rhetorical effect. We also find causative constructions where the subject causes an action through another agent. For example, fez jo estuda or mande ela cocina. Reflective causatives like ele se fez ouvir express self-imposed effort common in informal, educational, or parental contexts. Portuguese uses three main passive constructions, each with a different level of formality and focus. First, the analytical passive uses ser plus a past participle, example o livro foi escrito por João. Second is the se passive, a more neutral agentless form, example vendem se casas. Third is synthetic passive, which generalizes action without referring to a specific agent, example diz se que ela está doente. Moving to sentence lemma grammar, clitic pronouns are positioned based on clause type. In positive main clause, they follow the verb eu, viu, ontem. In negation or subordination, they move before the verb na, o, vi. Negation in Portuguese uses thou before the verb. Double negatives like não, vi, ninguém are standard and don't cancel each other, unlike in English. For questions, yes/no forms rely on intonation. Example, você gosta de música, while WH questions preserve standard word order. Example, o que você quer. Inversion is rare and mostly found in very formal speech or writing. Moving to other structures in relativization, Portuguese primarily uses que, meaning that, who, or which, in informal or general contexts. Example, a mulher que mora aqui e tia mina. For more formal or propositional contexts, Portuguese uses forms like o qual, a qual, or os que. Example, a cidade sobre a qual falei e linda. Coordination is expressed through familiar conjunction e and mas. For example, ela são e fechou a porta. Subordination uses connectors like porque and quando, and Embora. Example: fique em casa porque estava chovendo. Portuguese also employs discourse level features such as critic labeling, often used for clarity or emphasis. Example: a Maria e a V. It also shows left dislocation where the topic is moved to the front. Example: esse filme eu já vi. These structures serve not just grammatical function but also highlight focus, emphasis, and informational structure. Shifting to semantics, Portuguese vocabulary is a tapestry of historical contexts. Many everyday words trace back to Latin, but we also find Arabic loans like azid and Tupi-Guarani terms as in abacaxi. Code switching is common among bilingual lusophones, producing hybrid verbs like printa and tuita, reflecting modern media influence. Idiomatic expressions reveal deep cultural values. For example, saudade, a term without a perfect English equivalent, captures a profound nostalgic longing. Another idiom, ficar na mão, literally means to stay in hand, means to be left helpless. Forms of address underscore social hierarchy and intimacy. Polite registers favor honorifics such as Senora and Vossa Excellencia. In formal context, while family and friends use kinship terms like vovo and tia to convey warmth. Semantic feel-like color terms often also carry cultural nuance. Example: moreno, which describes tan skin or dark color, while preto is reserved for formal contexts. Spatial tags like equi, a, ali shift meaning subtly based on speaker-listener proximity. Verb distinguishes aspect, the imperfect. Example: u, lia, for ongoing actions. The preterite. Example: u, li, for completed events. Modality is expressed through dever. Example: ele deve estar en casa, for probability. And poder. Example: pode cover, for possibility. The subjunctive as in se u subes conveys uncertainty, aligning with universal, expectual, and modal distinction. Portuguese aligns with linguistic universals, including SU word order. Example: o, cato, camo, pexe. Gender number agreement. Example: a casa branca versus es casas brancas. Postnominal adjectives. Example: casa grande. Verb inflection. Example: u falo versus u fale. And question intonation. Example: o gato come. I recently had the opportunity to interview an undergraduate student raised in Portugal, now studying in London. This provided a unique perspective on how languages reflect identity and cultural norms. The student spoke about the emotive nature of Portuguese, noting how words like shiza, an exclamation of surprise or joy, capture the vibrancy of daily interaction. He also highlighted how food in media, such as importance of bacalhau during Christmas, reflect deep cultural ties even in diaspora communities. Additionally, the interview pointed out the formal tone often used in Portugal, especially with elders, in contrast to more relaxed communication style found in countries like Mozambique or Brazil. These social norms reflect the varied politeness strategies employed across Lusophone regions, where the use of formal speech and honorifics emphasizes respect and status within family or society. Portuguese is not just language, it's a global force linked by Community of Portuguese Languages Countries, CPLP. It unites people from Brazil to Mozambique with official status in 9 countries and growing influence in global diplomacy, international business, and higher education. The historical legacy of Portuguese, spread through the Portuguese colonial empire, continues to shape its role in international relations today, especially in Africa, Asia, and Americas. It remains a trade and diplomatic lingua franca while also fostering cultural cooperation and economic growth in countries like Brazil, Angola, and Mozambique. In conclusion, Portuguese offers not only a linguistic journey but also a deeper connection to the cultural identity, historical legacy, and global significance. As one of the world's most influential languages, it continues to shape both personal experiences and global interaction, making it a fascinating subject for linguistic study and cultural exploration. Thank you for your time and attention.